Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, June the 10th, 2026. This is the Made in Paradise podcast, sponsored by Proven Performer. I'm your host, John Clark, along with my co-hosts, Anthony Ferguson and Darren Vingleton. And today we have a special guest. He's a friend of mine that I've known for several years. He also follows my guru, Baba Neem Karoli. Met him in person, also with Baba's, I guess you'd call her his apprentice or his second in command who took over City Ma. He also lived when he was young with the famous artist, or the famous author Ram Dass, author, speaker, etc. And he's also been in the business of giving away food banks, all kinds of food charities, most of his life. Please welcome to the Made in Paradise podcast, John Visnauskas.
John, you big liar, you got it all wrong.
I got it all wrong.
No one should trust you guys. Hey, I actually only first heard Maharaji's name a few years after he'd passed away.
Okay. All right.
He kind of took over my mind, when I was like 17, but that was about 1976, 1977, a few years after his family saw his body burned in Vrindavan. I stayed with Ram Dass a short time after I graduated college. He had been my sort of confessor, confidant during, the last few years of my college years. But I didn't, live with him. I spent a summer in his house as he came and went.
Okay.
I live with him in my life. He haunts me still, Then also, I just couldn't imagine City Ma, not to speak for her, but characterizing herself as somehow Maharaji's second or successor or anything,
Yeah, okay.
Though she is a wonderful.
Well, she did take over, right? I mean, she did take over after he died. Right?
She was the custodian of most of the
Okay,
offices.
custodian, there's a good word. Yeah,
there was church politics afterwards, as there always is. But what a wonderful, simple, honest person, hardworking person, very devoted person, and someone who, saw a lot change in her lifetime, not in small part because of Maharaji. But
so you knew Ram Dass most of his life, though, right?
I knew him until he died, though I sort of lost contact with him in the last few years as people taking care of him sort of whittled away everyone who wanted a piece of Ram Dass. Though he was on the board of our nonprofit, Baba Neem Karoli Satsang, now doing business as Baba's Yard. And he begged to stay on, but his peeps were like, "Oh, we're really trying to rein him in and not have him on so many boards." And I mean, my low self is just like, no, they just wanted him on their boards.
Right.
But anyways, that was his Hawaii years. I was less in touch with him except for an annual Zoom. But I knew him before his stroke, after his stroke. His famous.
But you found Baba through him, right?
Come again?
You found out about Baba through him.
Yeah, I first heard about Maharaji through Be Here Now, and then I went out to meet Ram Dass because I couldn't believe that his books apparently read my mind somehow, or seemed to talk to me in a psychotic, delusional way, and so he was really my first satsang friend. That's what I considered him. And then from him, I met other people who I shared common interests with. So there were parts of the satsang that just started to grow as my friends. Then when I graduated college, I was 20 and I moved to Santa Fe, and I house sat and stayed with Ram Dass for that summer and got to meet a lot more satsang who I was really repulsed by, a lot of them my lifelong friends now. But I just thought they were very gossipy, incestuous group, just like.
Isn't every religious group kind of like that? I mean,
It seems to be a pattern.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of, it doesn't matter the religion or what they're following. It just seems to happen.
It's pretty universal, as much as people thinking that their experience is unique and there's that's a new thing under the sun,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So of knowing Ram Dass all of those years, I mean, give us 2 minutes. What was he to you as a person, right?
One thing he really...
I mean, that other people wouldn't know, because we all have an idea about people, right? You read a book or whatever, but something that was uniquely, between the two of you.
One thing he was to me, besides a good friend and, a person I just shared so much in common with, was he modeled entrepreneurship in a way that I didn't really see as a kid. And that, on my side of town, people work in factories. They don't start businesses. They don't start charities. And, he had friends who he was helping just, oh, you want to work with dying people? Hey, we could do that. Oh, you're whatever it is. You're giving buffaloes to people in South Dakota. Great idea.
Right.
Let's do that. And I sold weed when I was in high school. I worked for a landscaper, but I didn't really have an entrepreneurial model like
right.
around us, where you could just get together with your friends and do what you want to do. And so, and that's something he really, really was to me, someone who. And then because early on in our friendship, when I was like 20 turning 21, our relationship changed, and he crossed some boundaries for me, and he was, from that point, he was no longer really my teacher, or I didn't idolize him. He was my friend, who I forgave, just in the same way I was his friend who he forgave.
Right.
And so it allowed us to be friends, and allowed me a certain access, it felt, where, he could tell me about what a hassle it was being Ram Dass, and trying to, live up to this persona, which he spoke about, but, the persona is one thing, but then people's projections on your public persona, it's a whole other thing. So Ram Dass was an amazing, intelligent, kind, generous person who was beautifully flawed in such a human way, he was really a social engineer, he was really community organizer. Sounds a little gross, but those are the things that he modeled to me, and which I became.
Right. And so you go to India and you meet City Ma.
Now,
what's that scene? You did not meet her?
I did.
Okay.
I went to India 5 times from 88 until 94, and that was always really the focus of my visits. Where would the mothers be? And there's a limited amount of cultural penetration. They were old ladies, old widows, they were
right.
a house cleaning cult, we shared so much, but we shared Maharaji, and so.
Was there something, my curiosity, was there something about her presence, something about their presence that you remember that's very distinct?
That she recognized me, and she was very respectful of me in a way that I would be embarrassed to have tried to recognize myself, or she, I think in a lot of ways saw the best in me, and so I responded to that, and she was very considerate, and she was just like an impeccable hostess, in terms of what does your guest need? Your guest's got a bad stomach. Well, then what, I want only boiled
Like a
potatoes
perfect servant
and
spirit.
milk. Come again?
A perfect servant's spirit.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
grandma.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful person, like people should all be.
And how did those trips to India change you? How do you see that as? Would you consider that life changing? Was it pivotal?
No, absolutely, and that, I remember a great guy I met once, Jean Klein, who is somewhat well known as a teacher of non-dualism. He said a lot of times our mistake is thinking that it's the East that holds some mysticism, but it's really that we're looking for a global view. So somehow my world became much smaller, and I realized that, why is it that when I go to India, people want to know about my watch and my job? And, I just, why don't they want to talk about breathing exercises and postures? And, I just realized that it was a small world, and the more dissimilar of humanity I could find was constantly more evidence of the commonality of our humanity. That Thai people are different, Lithuanian people are different, Indian people are different, and sort of like the more different I realized we were, it sort of left a common denominator that was, much larger,
right.
Much larger.
Well, I think following Baba and following Maharaji and what Maharaji taught is a worldview. Do you agree?
It's as many worldviews as the viewers.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Love everybody, serve everybody, remember God. That's a big worldview. that's a very encompassing worldview to live that way, right?
Those are some fantastic, greatest hits. They're becoming his buzzwords. Maharaji said a lot. Yeah. Maharaji said a lot. You could probably write a dirty book.
Do you have a favorite quote? Well, we knew that because he was Badmash, right?
No, I don't know that he was Badmash. I didn't meet him. I'm not willing to say that. He was a rascally guy. Yeah. When people ask me what is my favorite quote of Maharaji, I always like to say, and this is something he said to a friend who told it firsthand to me, that if they ask you about charas or hashish, lie to them. Because I remember walking down the street in Manhattan this time with Ram Dass, and he said he was going to get me a diamond job because I was studying diamonds, and he said this kid owed him, who was no longer a kid. It was Harry Winston's heir, who had the choice of getting kicked out of Harvard or not, and bringing his family name into shame or not. And Ram Dass told him, oh no, do what you got to do. Tell the truth, And now, all these years later, he thinks this kid owes him something because he got fired from Harvard. Because the kid told the Harvard people, he gave me acid. It was the best thing ever. Changed my life. Da da da.
Okay, so that was the kid, because he's unnamed in the books, right? Because in the books, it's Andrew Weil. It's Andrew Weil who's
right. And I think that there was an element of romance involved too. That like jealous favorite undergraduates, because Andrew Weil I think was also an undergraduate at the time. But Harry Winston Jr. was an undergraduate. I'll probably get sued by him now because I'm sure he's like a gazillionaire diamondeer. But if you want to give me a job, Harry Winston Jr., I'll shut up. I still love diamond. But I told Ram Dass, you should have told him lie. You told him act like Jesus. Tell the truth. You should have said cover my butt, if that's what you wanted. But he didn't. So he told them.
That's
they said,
good.
we don't care. He gave you acid. They're out. That's all we need.
All right. So since we got on the diamonds, Darren's got a question for you. Darren, go ahead.
Well, I did want to ask you, working with diamonds and then working in the food banking industry, they're two complete different worlds. Do you see any connection between the people that are involved in those two things that you're selling to or giving to?
Oh yeah. One of my favorite phrases I used to pull out all the time was, the lady I give a diamond necklace to is never as happy as the lady I give a bag of beans to. That lady who gets the diamond necklace, she's pissed because she thinks he's gonna expect forgiveness because she got a necklace, or she wanted DE color and he got her HI color, and she wanted the one like this and he got her the one like that, So
she wanted 7 and he gave her 4.
whatever it is. And the old lady I give a bag of beans to, she's like, oh, I was praying for you and you came. They say things
whole
like
other
that.
Experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they say, oh, well, I worked until last month, but I was jumping in a dumpster at the supermarket last week. They tell me stuff like that. So, they give me a lot more, than, I love all my diamond people, but, they could never give me what the people I was allowed to serve in their last months, especially, gave me or give me, and
So tell us a little bit about the food banking, John. Tell us how many different food banks you've been involved with. Is there a number out there you're like, I've helped give away 82 million meals. Do you have anything like that?
I need to update my website. We do have a website at babasyard.org. That's our legal fictitious name in Ohio. We're a church charity. But I've spawned about 25 food bank agencies in association with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank.
Wow.
And, it would just be that, people ask me, what are you going to do with a religious studies degree? And I was going to say, how about all Faiths Pantry? So I started programs for the Greater Cleveland Shiva Vishnu Temple, the Cleveland Islamic Center, Southern Baptist, Lutheran, Evangelical Lutherans, like 25 different, very diverse groups. I always say people can't agree on the book of Revelation, but they can agree on Brussels sprouts. They can't agree on watermelon.
Right, when you're hungry. Yeah.
And, for a lot of people, it's just they're trying to get customers, you know what I mean? And that's fine, whatever people's motivations are. Still good will come from it. But yeah, when I first moved from New Mexico back to Ohio in 98, I started working for the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. It very much changed my life. Then I founded or helped found a couple dozen food bank agencies, most of which continue now. Right now, I'm not official in the food bank agency, except that I'm on the board of All Faiths Pantry, which again is celebrating its 20th year. There's a great place to donate. All Faiths Pantry is a unique model in that we deliver to 500 households per month. So when I started All Faiths Pantry 20 years ago, no one was talking about the difference of suburban poverty and retiring into poverty as opposed to inner city poverty and intergenerational poverty, where in the hood, you go to these old places where every church on the block has a hunger program, and people say, oh, my grandma brought me here, here's my grandkid. They're bragging about 5 generations have come to, St. Mary's for food. And here in suburban Ohio, people are like me. I don't make $1,000 a month on Social Security. I'm so glad I live in my childhood home. My mortgage is very low. My tax, I don't buy anything. So I live within my means. But you give groceries to a babushka in Parma, and they're like, oh, I don't want to take food from the poor. Or you have to convince them, oh, I'm in your neighborhood. I have plenty of food. I'm happy to see you. I love coming to visit you. You know, you deserve it. Your husband worked his whole life, you know. And it's a very different thing. You bring, you know, you give someone oatmeal and raisins in one place and they're like, where's the fucking meat? You know, and you give it to somebody else and they're like, look, I made you oatmeal raisin cookies. I knew you were coming back, you know. It's poverty and hunger is a nuanced thing and a complex thing. And All Faiths Pantry has really served a fantastic niche. You know, in 100 square miles, we coordinate 50 delivery teams. So this is the other thing. Delivering 500 packages would be nothing compared to coordinating 50 delivery teams to deliver to the same half dozen or dozen people every month. But what it means is 15 years later, that kid who went with grandma to deliver has now known that lady, you know, from 5 to 20. Now she's getting out of college. She met her in kindergarten, you know. So that lady's getting 15 times 12 bags of groceries. That's important. But she watched this kid grow up, and that's what she cares about. And that's why she takes a shower and gets out of her PJs and looks forward to, you're going to be there at 11:30, and she doesn't have to hide the silverware or counter.
So there's a lot more. You bring a lot more than just food. It's hope, right? It's a daily hope delivery, you know, or ongoing hope delivery.
I realized early on that I'm really just teaching people how to be nice, because people could do that themselves. Get groceries. They don't like the old lady on their street. I'll give them 5 old ladies they don't know so they can fall in love with them. You know, they don't have to be mad about.
But they don't like the old lady across the street. But the one 4 blocks over, they love her.
She doesn't mow her lawn, blah blah blah. You know, whatever. And so that's one of the great miracles of All Faiths Pantry, is that it really has been like a turnkey ministry for various churches. It's another way that faith communities hooked up with us, and that they don't want to start their own program. They don't want to start a pantry themselves, so they could just have a delivery route. We'll give them a HUD senior building, and they could go talk to those 40 people, as long as they're not leaving Bible tracts or you know, shaving heads or whatever.
Right. Keep the religion out. Keep the religion out of it. Just stick to the love and kindness.
Right. And yeah, it's amazing. As little caution as I took, nothing bad has ever happened. I never did a background check on hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. You know, yeah, just it's just amazing that we'll move 6 tons of food a month, and you know, there hasn't been one stitch yet. You know? Right. That's what I usually say. Our goal is no stitches. You know, I like to set the bar low and clear it every time. You know.
Anthony, you got a question for John?
Yes, I wanted to ask you, what's the biggest transformation you've been seeing in someone after giving them healthy food?
I mean, just to see in America, where people are dying of obesity and there's so much food, you know, to see people who actually gain weight, who say, I gained weight, because, you know, just because they're trying to live on 1,500 calories or 1,400 calories because they're isolated, they're socially isolated, and that's why they don't have food, you know. So I mean, I've seen people gain weight, you know, but the big thing in America isn't so much malnutrition or undernutrition, but it's also food insecurity, you know. So I've seen people grow less frightened that they won't have food because they live in America. They're not walking across the African desert with a swollen belly for a bag of gruel, you know. So the chance of them starving or being severely malnourished in that way is very little. But people are insecure, they're fearful, they're alone, so now they know John and his wife are coming. They're going to bring produce, they're going to bring cereal, they're going to bring milk, we're going to have peanut butter again after this weekend, so just the transformation. It's like I used to joke with Ramdas, we're bringing food, but it's really love disguised as food. So
well, when Maharaji said, God comes to hungry people in the form of food, and
he does,
and that's exactly correct, right?
I've seen that a million times,
Right. That's the transaction. Darren, another question for John.
Yeah, excuse me. There's a big truck driving by, but I wanted to ask you, what's one of the biggest obstacles you've faced trying to run these food banks, these All Faiths and Baba's Yard? Is it logistics? Is it marketing?
Biggest obstacle.
Myself, my own personal shortcomings, that eventually it's just hard to deal with rich people, and everybody is rich compared to my clients, and these are the most beautiful people trying to do the best thing, volunteers, donors. I grow into imposter syndrome because I feel like you really don't care. This is a little thing to you, and you're selfish, and it's just a little thing you're doing, and you don't realize how important it is to these people and how these people need you. But, that's been my biggest challenge, is to not go insane, screaming at people like a lunatic about what the fuck? These people are poor. You are miserable because you're so damn rich.
Right.
There's no shortage of food.
Right.
We pay to get rid of food. There is no shortage of food. All there is shortage of compassion, shortage of communication, shortage of logistics, shortage of morality, shortage
there you
of
go. There you go.
Priorities.
Right. Anthony, you got another question for John? We're getting almost to the end here.
One more, John. What was the exact moment you realized that feeding people was your calling?
I used to cook for my family when I was a boy. I'm tearing up thinking about that.
Good. That's what we're getting a good story. I'm ready. We're ready. Audience is ready. Everybody's ready. Let's hear it.
No, that's the story. As a boy, I used to love to make pizzas for my family, love to bake for my family, make cakes. I'm talking, this is what 4th and 5th grade boys in America did in America, at that time. And I just saw that my family coming together, and I was part of a huge extended family. The joy was around food. That was our communion. We were Catholics, but that communion was nothing compared to potato pancakes. They
Right.
took communion wine, but they didn't communicate like when they took Seagrams.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Great answer.
Well,
John,
because I was well fed, and
right.
I just saw how central it was to my family, and so I don't know when it started. It was way back, maybe. Yeah, I see that when I saw the birth announcement from my bassinet at the hospital. It said I was breastfed at the hospital, so it might have started then.
John, as we wrap up the podcast, if you have one message to give to the whole world, right? And we're going to put your contact information. We'll link it down for all. You want us to link Baba's Yard? I assume we'll link that down below so people can reach you. But if you had one message you could give to the whole world, what would that be?
Take care of yourself.
That's good. That's good advice. Well, John, we really appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much being our guest number 2 on the Made in Paradise podcast. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
This was really fun. I love you guys.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, take care. Thanks so much.
Take
All
care.
right, everybody. John Visnauskas, let's give him a hand. All right. Well, second guest down. Very interesting. I think that a lot of people give out of guilt, right? And they don't really get involved in it. And of course, I was a minister, and so we did some of what John's done, but never at anything on that scale. And I got to know him during COVID. We had a lot of great conversations because Adri and I were trying to help feed people because there was a lot of food insecurity back then. But we'll put John's contact information down below. And if you're feeling like you would like to help with a food program, he can show you where to go, where things, the money is really going to feed people. So let's talk about a deal. This is the Made in Paradise podcast brought to you by Proven Performer. We sell big closeout deals. Our contact information is below. You can reach out to us by WhatsApp or via email, and we will be happy to send you information on any of our deals. If you have a big deal that you'd like to sell, reach out. We'd have to talk to you about that too. The consultation is always free. Today, we're talking about a closeout from the Fossil Group. This product is in Hong Kong. And if you are a qualified buyer, we will connect you directly with this agent. There are 766 total SKUs, 140 of them are watches, 626 pieces of jewelry through the names Armani Exchange, Armani Diesel, Fossil, Michael Kors, and Skagen. 766 total SKUs, all brand new, genuine Fossil Group inventory, direct from the source. Reach out to us if you are interested in this deal or any of our other deals, and we'll be happy to send you the info. This has been the Made in Paradise podcast, sponsored by Proven Performer. We're here every week, Monday through Friday. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.